everybody, welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo. This is Gabe Estel with Jonathan Getz and Dennis Levi Leach, and tonight we've got a very special guest, the drummer from the fantastic Steepwater Band out of Chicago, Illinois. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Winters. Joe, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well, man. Thanks so much for this. We've all been fans of Steepwater for quite a few years, and we're really looking forward to talking to you. Joe, if you don't mind, man, for the uninitiated, for the listeners that might not be familiar with Steepwater, could you give us kind of Steepwater 101 in sort of a condensed form, your origins and your influences?
Yeah, sure. We're a rock and roll band out of Chicago. We've been together for 18 years, just traveling around playing gigs. We've been all over the United States and Europe. We play about 150 gigs a year. We've got about, 5 studio records out now, and a website, steepwater.com. You can get all the information there. But, we're out playing all the time, and got a brand new record out right now. We're out on the road touring behind. It's called Shake Your Faith.
Outstanding. Yeah. If you could maybe tell us, what are some of the bands that influenced Steepwater, Joe?
Well, actually, the bass player Todd Bowers and myself, we met the lead singer, lead guitarist, Jeff Massey. We met him at a Black Crowes concert. We were all there to see the Black Crowes in 1996. And I think it was kind of a love of blues and blues rock, the stuff that kind of influenced the Black Crowes that we all dug into at the same time. Groups like Rolling Stones, The Faces, and even further back than that, we all really loved blues music like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, Elmore James, John Lee Hooker, stuff like that.
So it sounds like kind of a shared appreciation among all three of you then.
Yeah. Yeah, the new record, Shake Your Faith, it sounds great. Was the approach to that new record different from any of your former LPs?
Not necessarily, no. We had a different producer, a guy named Jim Wirt, that he's kind of an all-over-the-map guy that's produced records for an array of different artists. Fiona Apple he worked with. He worked with Brian Setzer Orchestra and who else? L.A. Guns, he's all over the map, this guy, and we got hooked up with him in Cleveland, Ohio at a studio called Crush Tone Studios, where he's working out of now, and he produced the record. So whenever we work with a producer, we kind of, it's an open palette, and we don't, put any kind of restrictions on the ideas that they bring to the table as almost like a fifth member. So he had, his ideas came into play a lot with vocal harmonies and a little bit with arrangements and some different instrumentation with some keyboards and some percussion instruments and things, and we rolled with it. So if it sounds any different from our previous records, it wasn't necessarily on purpose. We were just kind of coming up with whatever songs we were coming up with and letting this producer, Jim Wirt, just kind of, do his thing, and we were having fun doing it.
Cool.
Yeah, there's Eric Sailors has been with the band now for a few years, Joe, but this is the first LP, of new material that he's played on. How did Eric, sort of complete the sound? It seems like he was a pretty important contributor to this record, and especially you're with your live shows as well.
Yeah, very much so. He plays guitar. He also plays lap steel and some mandolin on this record as well. And so he's kind of anything stringed instrument kind of guy. And also when joining our band, there weren't any limitations as to what his ideas, his input was going to be. So he showed up with riffs and songs and arrangements and ideas and melody even and whatever. And we were open to it because as a member of this band, the more creativity available to us, the more, the better even for us. So yeah, he definitely was a big part of the sound and the ideas that were coming out. And maybe that is a little also why this record has a little different sound from previous records. Who knows? He definitely plays all kinds of strings instruments all over it.
Excellent. Yeah, well, he's a great addition, man. I've been able to see him live a few times, and Steepwater was great before, and it's just it's even better now, man. So excellent.
Right on. Thank you.
Good
so
addition.
Much. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, well, how has the road changed at all in the last 18 years, would you say?
The road, like being out playing gigs?
Yeah. Has there been any changes at all?
Yeah, it's definitely vital because, people don't really sell records without being out. It's kind of like, especially for a band like ours, you got to bring the record out to the people in the clubs. I think for bands bigger than us, it definitely changed in the fact that the same kind of groups that were selling a lot of records aren't selling records like hard copy records anymore. So they have to play dates to kind of make it up for their income and whatnot. And for the same perspective from us, if we're not out playing, we're not really getting music to people. As much as people discover music on the internet, I feel it's almost even more important to be out finding your audience all the time and finding new people to turn on to what you're doing and have them actually buy music from you at your shows. And there still are a lot of hardcore people that like to see it, hear it, buy it from you, a physical copy of it, and put it in their car or whatever. So I don't know if it's really changed, but I could say it's definitely as important as ever, if not even more important, to be out playing shows all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of your favorite venues that the band's played, Joe? You guys have been all over, but what are some of the favorite venues that you have played?
Well, I could tell you my number one favorite that I've ever played is that the band has ever played. It's a outdoor venue in Barcelona, Spain. It's called the Pablo Español, and we did a show there in 2007 where we opened for Gov't Mule and John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. And this particular outdoor venue in Barcelona has been called, Bob Dylan actually called it his favorite venue in Europe to play. And being on that stage, it's kind of like in a little town square in Barcelona with like buildings all around it and like a bunch of like people hanging out on balconies and it's nice. A really cool open air place. So that's number one for me. It stands out. I like some of our Chicago venues a lot. I still have a soft spot for Metro. I love Metro and the experiences I've had playing at Metro will always be some of my favorites. And Double Door is right up there as well. And for anybody watching the news today in Chicago, I guess a judge ordered the Double Door to vacate the premises.
Oh, God, that sucks.
I guess they lost their lease lawsuit or whatever. So I don't know. I'm hearing mixed stories. People are saying that it might not be over yet, but the judge did order it just this afternoon. So, but yeah, Double Door in Chicago is also. We recorded a live record there back in 2010, I want to say, or 11. No, maybe it was 9. Whenever it was, we have a live record live at the Double Door, and I have a lot of great memories from playing there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, outstanding. Yeah.
You mentioned the venue in Spain. The band, it seems, has received a really warm reception from Spanish rock fans. Do you think there's a reason that Steepwater's connected so well with them? And how was touring throughout the other parts of Europe?
Oh, it was great this last trip. We were there from mid-April until just about Memorial Day this year. And it's always been great. People, I think in general, Spain, the Spanish audiences really like roots, like American roots rock. We were introduced to the Spanish audiences at a festival that we got invited to in 2005 called the Azquina Rock Festival.
Yeah.
It was a big fest. We played in front of a lot of people. We played with Wilco,
Nice.
Truckers at that, and it was a matter of not even weeks, and we had people calling wanting to put together a club tour after that for us. So we're embraced out of the gate over there, and a lot of the magazines. There's a couple of big roots rock magazines over there. One called Popular One, and the other one, and they've always written good articles about us and given us good reviews on our tours and on our records, and it's been a steadily building thing for us in Spain. And as far as the rest of Europe goes, this time around we went to Germany and Holland and Switzerland and the Czech Republic and Poland, and everywhere we went, it seemed like it's catching on a little more for us. So, we intend to go back there. It sounds like we're going there at least a couple times next year, probably.
Right on. Oh yeah, man. Well, some lucky European fans. One of the bands that you had shared a bill with before, Joe, was Gov't Mule. And I think you mentioned in an interview a few years ago that Warren Haynes of Gov't Mule took you guys on his bus and told you some Alan Woody stories. Alan's kind of a musical hero of the host of this podcast. Are there any of those stories that you can share? If not, no problem. But yeah.
Well, unfortunately, if I'm remembering the time correctly, Jeff and Todd went on the bus with Warren that night. It was the last night. We did like a week-long tour with them, and at the end of it, Jeff, I don't think I did. I think I was like moving merch. While they were hanging out, I think I was moving the merchandise, but
the life
of
a drummer.
Exactly. I don't have any specific stories, but they were so good to us, and I mean, really, accommodating, and they gave us a great set every night, like 45 minutes or an hour. I forget, but it was just so great to be out with those guys, and Warren would come every night. He would come to our dressing room and make sure that we were okay. Everybody got something to eat or whatever it was, pre-show, whatever, see if we needed anything. And they even had Jeff and Todd sit in with the band a couple of times. And if you go to YouTube and put in, for anybody out there listening, if you put in YouTube Gov't Mule and Steepwater Band, there's videos of those guys sitting in with the Mule and on some of those nights in the Midwest, and it was a really magical time for us, for sure. Yeah,
you did Politician with them, didn't you, I think?
Exactly, they did, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what.
I've seen that video and it kicks ass.
Yeah, it's so cool, so cool. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow, that really happened. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right on, man.
You guys opened for Bon Jovi at the United Center, which was sold out, we should add. And what does a Bon Jovi crowd look like?
Yeah, that's probably one of the weirdest gigs I've ever played. We got to do the gig through the Loop radio station, which is a classic rock radio. While it kind of sounded, like maybe that wasn't such a great idea, what we found out was for every like middle-aged housewife that was hanging out, they brought their man with them, who was probably like a little grumpy to have to go and bring their wife or their girlfriend. And then they got there and they saw the dude up there ripping slide guitar. And so all the dudes, like usual at our gigs, were like, yeah, these guys are rocking. You could tell all the dudes were into it. While there was some grumpy looking like middle-aged women or even teenage girls that were kind of going like, who are these long-haired guys? Like, weird, but fun, man. Definitely an experience to get on a big stage in front of 20,000 people at the United Center, and I saw the Stones play there. I saw Paul McCartney play there, and a bunch of cool Bulls games when Jordan was playing, and to think that we were playing there that night for 30 minutes in front of 20,000 people. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
some of the Steepwater's music, Joe, has been featured on some TV shows and movies. What was that process like? I mean, was it just kind of sort of music supervisors reaching out to you? They discovered you, or did you know somebody?
Pretty much. It's kind of a mix of it. Sometimes they're looking for something specific.
Yeah.
We do have we have actual, like, some songs that are in, like, catalog houses in California.
Okay.
Or blues rock song, and they call these placement houses and say, hey, I'm looking for this song, or a song that sounds like this. And maybe they don't have the kind of money to spend on, like, an Allman Brothers song or something, so they're looking for something like that. So they'll call a catalog house, and then they'll go through their, extensive catalog of songs and go, oh, what about this song? So it works that way sometimes, but we've also been reached out directly from Universal Pictures. But for the movie 5 Year Engagement, they were looking for something specific, and our song to use our songs from our Revelation Sunday record, and but it kind of works in different ways. And for us, it's just a way for more people to find out about our band. So we're open to that. It's a way to make extra money and for more people to find out about you. So it's really a great thing for, like, an independent band like ours, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. It was. I was watching Friday Night Lights one time a few years ago, and it was certainly it made me happy to hear a Steepwater song on there. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I heard about that, but
yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the episode the way I've always meant to look that up. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, and especially when he sees it. And you get, like, a text message, and they're like, man, I was watching TV, and your song came on. It's so cool. It's like stuff like that is, it's to me, it never gets old, It never loses its, like, specialness. Like, even getting the little bit that we ever get played on the radio, or even like this podcast, It's like, when this is done and we publish it and people listen to it, and maybe I'll even go back and listen to it, and like, well, that's so cool that got out there for, like, people to listen to. I'm fascinated by all of it still, like, just like when you're a teenager, you're like hoping you could ever get played on the radio or get in a movie. And then, and your band name is in the credits. It's like, wow, that is just so cool. I hope it happens like 1,000 more times,
Yeah.
Yeah, us too, man.
Yeah, Steepwater has a big blues and rock influence, obviously. Are there any other favorite albums or drummers of yours that would surprise us?
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the map. Like, I like blues, rock, jazz, country, metal. I like everything. So, as a young guy, I was really into heavier rock. So, I mean, I don't know if it would really surprise. It wasn't like I was into, like, death metal or anything, but,
Right.
But I mean, like any kid growing up in the 80s, I liked Van Halen and Aerosmith and I don't know. I mean, I do like a lot of jazz. I own a bunch of Miles Davis and John Coltrane, and at the same time, I own some Motorhead records. It's like I'm kind of all over the map with everything. So maybe that would surprise people a little bit, but otherwise, not really. I mean, I'm pretty like right now I'm really into like the new Mudcrutch record, Tom Petty and those guys with their old band, and it's kind of like my favorite record right now, which would be right in the kind of wheelhouse of the kind of music that we make, so.
Miles to Motorhead, good is good, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. That's
right.
what I say. Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I'm also, as long as we're talking on oddball stuff like that, I really, and this will be a shout out to Big George too, big Alice Cooper fan, and kind of try to go see him when, like, if I'm around and he's playing, like, I go out to see his shows like all the time because I don't know, it's just fun still. Like, I love going to see him.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's a guy over the last few years too that's finally started. I mean, like he was certainly popular in the 70s and 80s, but I think a lot of people are starting to realize how important Alice was to rock and roll, you know?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, that certainly makes me happy. Joe, and if you can share it, I heard a story once of a phone call that you made to a pretty famous guitarist, right? A guitar god, if you will. If you can share a condensed version of that story with us, if you can share it, that would be awesome.
There's no possible way to share a condensed story. You had 2.5 hours to do a podcast.
Okay.
Then I could start talking about it. I don't even know where to begin. Like, we had a phone relationship with Eddie Van Halen that he would call us in our van. As crazy as it sounds, he would call us in our van while we were on tour at random times. So we would call him, and
that's awesome.
We got his number through a friend of a friend. I can't really say who, but
sure.
And it's so hard to even get started. What we should do, if you guys are, if there's ever any remote way to do it, we should do like a 2-hour podcast where we just tell the story, because it's literally a 2-hour story.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're in. Yeah.
It's the craziest stuff that's ever happened. It's the craziest thing that's ever happened. But, yeah, you know, we haven't talked to him in a long time. It was kind of it was a time period thing, and we hope Ed's out there doing good wherever he might be. Who knows? Maybe he likes baseball, and maybe he's checking out the podcast right now. I don't know. Hey, Ed.
I really hope so. Yeah. Well, good, man. We will. That story will be to be continued.
Yeah, we will definitely take you up on that offer.
Excellent. Well,
yeah, it would be fun. We've talked about like doing like a YouTube video where the three of us tell the story and like publish it and just, you know, like put it up on YouTube. But I don't even, it's so crazy. I don't even know if people would believe it or not. Like the things it's insane.
Parts of it should be animated for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how we got to do it. That would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, good deal. Well, the other part of our podcast deals with baseball, so we're going to close with a couple of those questions, if that's all right, Joe. Now you're a Cubs fan, right? Am I right there?
I am huge Cubs fan.
All right. Well,
but if I can say, I'm actually a Cubs and Sox fan, and mostly a Cubs fan. But I actually worked as a bat boy for the White Sox in 1983. So at the old Comiskey.
Yeah,
so
really? There's some elite.
Yeah. It was just
ugly.
Yeah, exactly. It was the year that they won the division. So I didn't travel with them or anything. It was just like a couple of home games, and it was just a little part-time. It's like an assistant bat boy. But I grew up in a household of Cubs fans, so I could kind of say I'm both. But I'm really a Cubs fan at heart.
Did they let you keep that sweet 1983 bat boy uniform?
You know, they didn't. No, I don't have it. And you know, I noticed that those guys are wearing those uniforms once in a while this year now, and they're as ugly as they ever were, man. I can't believe they put those back on. You know,
baseball is kind of going through a flirtation with vintage charm right now. You know what I mean, in terms of uniforms. So
very, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, with the Cubs, man. I mean, obviously, I would assume you're pretty excited about. Okay, it's been a rough maybe 3 or 4 weeks here, but how do you feel about them going into the second half, man? How do you feel?
Man, I don't, you know, as a Cub fan, you can't get too excited about anything. So, I honestly, people make fun of me, but like, when they're like down and out and they're like losing 100 games, I almost enjoy it more because, like, I don't got to worry about it. Like, I'm like, cool, I know for sure that we're going to lose 100 games. I don't have to get it. I don't have to worry. So, I can just like relax and watch the game and whatever. But where they're at right now, they look good out of the game. I never take it for granted. Man, you just never know. I think it was the 77 Cubs that had about the same record around the same time, around the All-Star break, and they completely collapsed and didn't even win the division. So, you know, if they can get healthy, if they can get a couple key guys healthy, and I really think that they need to make a move before the trade deadline for bullpen pitching. You can't expect to go into, you know, like the crunch time late in the season and win close games without really strong bullpen. And I really don't think the guys that they got out there right now are I don't mean to sound cynical, but I just don't think they're capable of closing up close games, man. I mean, they need a little relief. They might even need a bona fide closer, you know. I don't know. And every year after year after year, I sit in the off season and I go, man, are they going to get good relief pitching this year? And it seems like even when they bring marquee names and you know, and they bring up these kids that they've been grooming for years that are dynamite guys in the, you know, and position players that can hit, they always forget to get relief pitching. And I think if they're going to go to the playoffs, if they're going to compete, they got to do it before the trade deadline. Yeah. And that's just my personal feelings on it.
Oh yeah, as a Cubs fan, I also agree wholeheartedly with all that. You know, they had like probably the worst last 25 games going into the All-Star break out of any of the teams. You know, so
yeah, awful. And I don't know what's going on with some of the starting pitchers either. I mean, you know, I was kind of shocked that Hamill and Lester started out as good as they did. I mean, I know they got talent. I know that they're expected to perform like that, but I was not that sure going in, but they proved everybody, you know, I mean, they proved me wrong out of the gate. They were great, but now things have kind of chilled out for some of those guys, and they're going to have to find that magic again with the starting pitching too. So it'll be interesting. I you know, as a Cub fan, you gotta take it day by day, week by week, because you never know what could happen.
Oh yeah. So the Cubs,
century by century sometimes. Anyway.
Ooh, yeah, right.
So the Cubs just called up Joe Winters, and he's coming up to his first at bat at Wrigley Field. What's your walk-up song?
Oh wow, I never thought about that. Right, probably just because it's on my mind right now. I mean, crazy, but a song. I mean, a cool current song right now that would be a song called "Dreams of Flying" by Mudcrutch. And so maybe I would just use that because it's like my favorite song right now. I don't know.
Cool. All right.
If you're like us, you would probably change it every at bat.
Yeah, right. Are there guys that do that, or do they pick one for the whole summer and that's it?
I think they have to stick with one and maybe change it a couple times in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, what do you do? You come to the ballpark and you're like in the clubhouse and you go in. You go into Madden's office and be like, hey man, I need my walk up song changed. Like I can't play today, and like you call the front offices and I need that song changed today, or I can't bat. I don't know. I would imagine if that goes on, you know.
Yeah, if it was a superstitious hitter who was valuable to the team, they might accommodate him, you know.
They might. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, Joe, thanks so much for talking to us, man. We really appreciate this, and we wish you safe travels on the road and the best for Steepwater. Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate this.
This was really fun. Thank you guys for asking me to do it, and I could sit here and talk. I mean, baseball. Thanks a lot for, you know, like making it such a huge part for our band. If anybody's out there listening wants to check it out, it's steepwater.com is the website. You can find out all the tour dates and everything about the band there. And really appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks.
I'd like to thank the drummer from the Steepwater Band, Joe Winters, for sitting in with us tonight. A lot of fun talking to Joe, and he had some great stories. Also, you can learn more about the Steepwater Band at steepwater.com. You can follow them also on Twitter and Instagram at the Steepwater Band. So check them out on social media. And also, when they come to your town, go see them live. You won't be disappointed. Also, you can find out more about us at rockchew.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RockinChew. That's Rockin as in nasty. All right.
It's great getting all those birthday updates.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So check us out there. We post a lot of fun stuff, as well as, get some conversations going on Twitter and Instagram too. So again, that's rockchew.com, and then on Twitter and Instagram at RockinChew. And then also like us on Facebook as well, and tell all your friends to do the same. We will see you next time for episode number 61. Take care.
Peace.